Hello everyone and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Poppy stood in the center of the living room, her arms folded tightly across her chest like she was trying to hold herself together, but the trembling gave her away. Her mouth was dry, the words aching in her throat, and yet, the silence in the room was unbearable now that Brooke had stopped talking, her face pale and eyes narrowing in confusion. The late afternoon light filtered through the large windows, casting long, dramatic shadows across the hardwood floor, illuminating the dust in the air like snow suspended in time. Outside, the sound of distant traffic and children's laughter from the park contrasted cruelly with the storm brewing inside. Nick stood near the fireplace, still wearing the leather jacket he hadn't taken off since he walked through the door, unaware that his entire world was about to shift. Brooke had called them both over, insisting they finally talk things out, for Luna's sake, she had said, but she had no idea what truth was about to unravel like a frayed ribbon from a forgotten gift. Luna was upstairs, mercifully unaware, playing with her crayons, drawing the kind of sunshine that never shone in the lives of adults burdened by secrets. Brooke's fingers gripped the edge of the marble countertop, knuckles white, mouth slightly open as she waited, unknowingly poised on the edge of a cliff she hadn't seen coming. Poppy exhaled slowly, as if every molecule of oxygen carried a memory she had buried years ago. Her gaze flicked to Nick, who had furrowed his brow in concern but hadn't spoken. Maybe he didn't dare to interrupt the fragile tension. Maybe, deep down, he already knew. "I should have told you both sooner," Poppy began, her voice quiet, almost childlike. Brooke's head tilted slightly, confusion etched deeper now. "What are you talking about?" Brooke asked, glancing from Poppy to Nick and back again. "Told us what?" Poppy took a step forward, the floor creaking beneath her feet. "Nick." She paused, eyes locking with his. "You're Luna's father." The words floated in the air for a beat, then fell like a hammer. Silence collapsed around them. Nick's breath caught audibly, and Brooke blinked once, twice, 3 times like the world had suddenly lost focus. "What did you just say?" Brooke asked, though she had heard it. Every syllable had landed like a punch to the gut. She just couldn't believe it. "That's not possible." Daniel was," Poppy shook her head. "No." Daniel knew. He knew he wasn't Luna's biological father. "He agreed to raise her with me anyway." Nick took a step forward, hands slowly lifting, unsure whether to run them through his hair or reach out to Poppy. "You're telling me Luna, she's mine?" His voice cracked, equal parts disbelief, grief, and hope. "You remember the weekend in Montauk," Poppy said. "Right before you left for Seattle. It was, God, Nick, it was supposed to be goodbye." Nick nodded slowly, memories stirring like leaves in wind. "But I thought you said," "I lied," Poppy interrupted. "I was scared. And then you left, and then Daniel proposed, and I didn't know how to stop everything from spinning. So I said she was his." Brooke backed away from the counter now, hands up like she was repelling an unseen force. "You knew? You knew all this time and you said nothing?" Her voice was sharp, raw, betrayed. "We've been raising that little girl together like family, and you let me believe something that wasn't true?" Tears welled in Poppy's eyes, but she didn't wipe them away. "I didn't do it to hurt anyone. I did it to protect her. To give her a normal life. Daniel loved her. He wanted to be her father. And Nick, you were gone. You made it clear you weren't ready for anything." Nick opened his mouth, then closed it again. The weight of the years collapsed on his shoulders, regret swirling in his gut like acid. "I didn't know," he whispered. "If I had known, would you have stayed?" Brooke demanded, turning her fire on him now. "Would you have stepped up? Or would you have run harder?" Nick flinched, and Poppy turned to her. "That's not fair, Brooke." "Isn't it?" Brooke snapped. "Do you have any idea what it's like to love a child that isn't yours, to hold her when she's sick, to listen to her talk about ponies and planets and think, this is my niece, but maybe, just maybe I'll always be her mother, too, only to find out that none of it was ever real?" "She still loves you," Poppy said. "Nothing changes that." You're still her aunt. You're still her everything. But I'm not her parent, Brooke said bitterly. I've been living in your life for 6 years. I defended you when people questioned your choices. I sat by your side when Daniel died. I've been there every step of the way. And all the while, you were keeping this from me. Because I didn't want to lose you, Poppy said. Either of you. I was scared it would ruin everything. Well, Brooke said, voice cracking, congratulations. It has. She turned toward the door, and for a long second no one moved. Then Nick said softly, Brooke, wait. She stopped but didn't turn around. I don't know what any of this means, he said. I don't even know how to process it. But I do know that if Luna is my daughter, I want to be there for her. Really be there. Brooke slowly looked over her shoulder, eyes red and full of heartbreak. Then be ready to fight for her, she said. Because this doesn't just change your life. It changes hers. And then she was gone, the door slamming behind her like a thunderclap. Poppy sat down heavily on the couch, finally letting her head drop into her hands, sobs racking her body. Nick stood frozen for a long moment before slowly sitting beside her, unsure if he should touch her, comfort her, or just let her cry. Upstairs, Luna laughed at something her imaginary friend had said, the sound floating down the stairs like sunlight breaking through a storm. And in that strange, suspended moment, everything was different, and yet, somehow, everything had just begun. Nick versus Ridge, Luna corners Hayes, and Daphne connects. Daphne Rose will get a message from Steffi Forrester Finnegan. Hayes Forrester Finnegan is cornered by Luna Nozawa. In addition, Ridge Forrester has problems because Nick Marone is back for Brooke Logan. Nick Marone is back. First up is Nick, who returns to Los Angeles. Nick returns for Brooke, grinning broadly. Naturally, Brooke is extremely surprised that her ex is returning to her life. But can Brooke truly let go of Ridge in order to give Nick another chance? Nick will do everything correctly, but it appears that he may face some opposition. Ridge confides in Taylor Hayes in a sneak peek. In reference to Nick, Ridge states that he doesn't like the guy. I think it sounds more like jealousy, even though Ridge would say he's simply worried. Corners of Luna Nozawa Finnegan, Hayes. After that, search for Luna to spy on the family of Steffi and John Finnegan. After that, Luna has the opportunity to corner Hayes in a yard. Luna calls the youngster by name in an attempt to win his trust despite his nervousness. Luna may even clarify that she is also Finn's child. Luna then surprises Hayes with a gift. This gift might give Steffi and Finn chills if they ever discover it. Daphne Rose connects according to next week's spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. Steffi eventually makes an attempt to persuade Daphne to return to Los Angeles. Steffi does this despite Hope Logan's protests. Why is Daphne required back in town, I wonder? Is this indeed about Carter Walton, or is it related to the perfume line? Brooke shares details about Nick with Katie Logan. Katie, though, will not hesitate to express her personal thoughts over Nick's unexpected presence. Additionally, Brooke will share Nick's kiss with her sister. A development of Luna's grudge against Steffi should also occur. Does she have a different plan in mind, or will she abduct Hayes? Keep checking back because this plot is really beginning to heat up. In the golden haze of a Los Angeles morning, the city stirred to life under the pressure of mounting secrets, emotional reckonings, and long-buried passions clawing their way back into the sunlight. Nick Marone's return to Los Angeles began like a slow ripple in still water, unnoticed at first, until the wave built enough force to crash into the lives of those he left behind. With a sailor's swagger and a glint in his eye, Nick strode back into town with the sea wind still clinging to his shoulders and one name on his lips, Brooke Logan. Brooke had weathered her share of storms, particularly when it came to love, but even she wasn't prepared for the flood of emotions that rose the moment she laid eyes on Nick again. He wasn't just a memory, he was a living, breathing reminder of a love that once defied time and circumstance. When Nick kissed her under the lemon trees at the Forrester Estate garden, on impulse, passion, or perhaps rebellion, it sent a shockwave through her carefully ordered world. She confided in Katie Logan, who, despite her own complicated past with Nick, didn't hesitate to share her skeptical view. Nick wasn't just back for romance, he had something to prove, and Ridge Forrester was firmly in his crosshairs. Ridge, meanwhile, masked his jealousy under the guise of concern when he opened up to Taylor Hayes, but the tension in his voice and the fire in his eyes betrayed the truth. He wasn't just worried about Brooke's well-being, he was afraid of losing her again, to a man who once made her feel more alive than he ever could. As the Ridge-Nick rivalry reignited, Brooke stood at a crossroads between history and possibility, loyalty and freedom. But the romance wasn't the only storm brewing in the Forrester universe. Far from the glamour of love triangles and corporate boardrooms, a more dangerous emotional entanglement was unfolding in the shadows. Luna Nozawa, daughter of Poppy and, if rumors were true, Finn's own blood, returned to Los Angeles not just with a vendetta, but with a hunger to reclaim something she believed was stolen from her, a place in the Forrester family, a life she was denied, and above all, justice. The object of her obsession wasn't Steffi or Finn directly, it was their innocent child, Hayes Forrester Finnegan. Luna began watching him from afar, drawn to him not just as a symbol of the life she never had but perhaps as the only person untouched by the scars of the past. One afternoon, she seized her chance, cornering Hayes in the garden near the Forrester mansion's hedgerow maze. She approached slowly, using his name softly, like a lullaby. Hayes, shy and perceptive, hesitated. Luna kneeled and offered him a small wooden toy boat, an odd, handmade token. She whispered that it once belonged to someone just like him, someone who had dreams stolen from them, too. Was it a gesture of peace? Or a cryptic warning? If Steffi or Finn discovered the exchange, it would confirm their worst fears, that Luna wasn't just a jilted relative or former employee, but someone dangerously unhinged. The air around Luna crackled with obsession, sorrow, and unspoken truth, and her eyes shimmered with a pain that had festered for years. The question loomed, was Luna trying to connect with Hayes, or take him? Elsewhere, a name spoken with increasing urgency was beginning to re-enter the Forrester narrative, Daphne Rose. Once a promising designer and confidant with a quiet grace, Daphne had slipped out of Los Angeles and into obscurity. That is, until Steffi Forrester Finnegan, desperate for a missing puzzle piece, perhaps related to a new fragrance campaign or a secret buried in the Forrester vault, began reaching out. Hope Logan protested, suspecting ulterior motives. Daphne's past connection to Carter Walton, her mysterious exit, and her potential knowledge of proprietary Forrester secrets made her both an asset and a risk. Still, Steffi reached out, her tone urgent, her motives unclear. What did she need from Daphne? Redemption? Intel? Or a human ally in a war that was becoming increasingly personal? When Daphne finally answered the call, it wasn't with excitement, but trepidation. She had left for a reason, and returning meant reopening wounds she thought had scarred over. Yet, something pulled her back, unfinished business, a promise made, and the growing feeling that she was being watched. All these threads, the rekindled love triangle, the looming danger of Luna's descent into madness, and the re-emergence of Daphne, coalesced into a dizzying storm of emotion. Brooke, torn between Ridge and Nick, was forced to reckon with her past mistakes. Nick, confident and charming, seemed to be rewriting history, offering a version of love that Brooke could escape into. Ridge, proud and possessive, began taking desperate steps to reclaim his place, not just as Brooke's protector, but as the man who defines her world. At the same time, Luna's grip on reality seemed to slip further as she began leaving cryptic gifts around the Forrester estate. A lock of hair in a silver locket. A photograph of Finn as a child with a scribbled note, "This could have been me." Hayes, though innocent, began showing signs of unease, clinging to Steffi at night, whispering about the lady in the garden. Finn, protective and analytical, began quietly investigating Luna's whereabouts, unaware that she had already placed herself into his family's orbit. Steffi, meanwhile, wrestled with fear and fury, vowing to protect her child from a threat she couldn't fully define. She began suspecting that Luna's plan wasn't just to unsettle them, it was to insert herself into their family by force. Then there was Daphne, who returned not to comfort or warmth, but to confrontation. Her first meeting with Carter was icy, charged with unsaid words and wounded glances. Hope shadowed Daphne's steps, convinced she was a double agent, while Steffi begged her to stay, promising truth, protection, and a chance to reclaim her voice. But Daphne was no longer the passive player she once was. She came back with secrets of her own, including one connected to the perfume line, a formula that could redefine the brand but was tied to a scandal that, if uncovered, could destroy the Forrester name. As Daphne unraveled the layers of the conspiracy, she began to suspect that her own departure had been orchestrated by someone high up, perhaps even Rich himself. And in the shadows, Luna watched it all unfold. Her obsession with Hayes evolved into something more complex, less about possession and more about validation. She believed that the Forresters owed her, and Hayes was her symbolic claim. In a moment of eerie calm, she told herself, if they won't give me a place in their world, I'll take one. Meanwhile, Nick continued courting Brooke with grand gestures, sunset dinners, vintage wine, and even a love letter read aloud beneath the stars. Brooke, charmed and confused, wondered if fate was giving her a second chance, or if she was falling into another emotional trap. Ridge's fury reached a breaking point when he walked in on Brooke and Nick dancing to an old record, the same one Ridge once played for her on their honeymoon. The confrontation that followed shook the mansion walls, with Ridge demanding that Brooke choose. But Brooke, for the first time in years, refused to let either man define her path. In the climactic scene of this act, Steffi, sensing Luna's presence near the estate again, confronted her outside the gates. The two women stood face to face under a bleeding sunset, words sharp, breath short. Luna, wild-eyed, said she only wanted what was rightfully hers. Steffi, steely and maternal, warned her that coming near Hayes again would unleash consequences she couldn't imagine. This isn't a fairy tale where lost daughters get welcomed home, Steffi hissed. You made yourself an outsider the moment you started stalking my child. Luna didn't back down. She whispered, then I'll make my own ending. She turned and disappeared into the dusk, leaving Steffi chilled and uncertain. At the same time, Daphne found herself alone in the Forrester archives, unlocking a drawer filled with correspondence Ridge had tried to bury, letters detailing a payoff, a cover-up, and a signature that matched Ridge's exact handwriting. Daphne clutched the papers to her chest, realizing she held the key not just to her own redemption, but to Ridge's possible undoing. As the days unfolded, each character spiraled deeper into a web of passion, paranoia, and past sins. Nick upped the ante by proposing a bold business merger that would bind him and Brooke professionally, and maybe emotionally, for good. Ridge began plotting to expose Nick's financial weaknesses, hoping to drive him out once more. Luna set a plan in motion involving a Forrester intern, a burner phone, and a fake emergency that could lure Hayes outside again. Daphne met with a mysterious European investor who offered protection in exchange for the formula and her silence. And Brooke? She stood at the eye of the storm, one hand still holding the letter from Nick, the other brushing over the bracelet Ridge gave her decades ago, the one she never stopped wearing, even when she said she'd moved on. And so, as the sun set over Los Angeles once again, the future of the Forrester legacy balanced on a knife's edge, with love, betrayal, obsession, and vengeance tightening their grip on every player involved. In this world of flawless fashion and fractured hearts, everyone had something to gain, and everything to lose. Luna may be ready to leave. Luna may be ready to leave. Critics are also sick of Luna sobbing over not being in Finn's life and the incessant flashbacks. As if that weren't enough, we seem to hear the same discussions over and over again about what Luna did to Tom, Hollis, and Steffi. Some even believe that Sheila and Deacon should stop discussing it together. B&B fans have a lot to say about this current plot on social media, as our devoted readers may remember. Some have gone so far as to remark, aside from that, what else is fascinating about Bold? Nothing at all. Either Brooke, Eric, and Katie tell Ridge that Brooke is his true love and that he should go back to her, Liam talks about dying for the 100th time, Hope and Carter discuss their engagement, or Taylor and Ridge talk about how they have a bright future together. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, what will happen to Luna next? I'd rather watch Luna clip her toenails than watch a woman my age, who is almost ready to retire, cry about Ridge being her destiny in full Fundy baby voice, remarked another admirer of the show. Ridge dumps Taylor for Brooke, which is followed by her being devastated and humiliated. Then came this comment as well: they ought to have provided her with Liam's tumor to explain her behavior and provide a valid explanation for her release from prison, aside from Bill somehow performing some sort of magic behind the scenes for whatever reason. My idea is realistic and out there at the same time, which is how it should be, but I don't expect much from soap operas.